When he first arrived in Washington, D.C., drivers could park along both sides of Georgia Avenue. He set up shop just outside of Jamaican restaurant and a grill and recalls there being a healthy appetite for books by and about Black people. Fourplexes like these at 5400 Fifth Street Northwest are a prime example of what experts call missing middle housing, the very kinds of homes that would help keep home prices down. The cast and crew stood just outside the actual West Wing, where the First Lady, show creator Aaron Sorkin, and fictional President Jed Bartlett gave remarks. The 2024 presidential election is just weeks away. Ask any voter what's top of mind for them as they head to the polls, there's a good chance you'll hear these two words: the economy. But despite the fact that the economy is trending up, or what Harris and Trump say they're going to do for the middle class, many Americans just don't feel it in their pockets.
A lot of people are struggling, and a lot of people are feeling helpless.
I'm a teacher. I feel it. You know, I'm a family of 6, and just getting gas, getting groceries. It takes a hard hit on a salary. So, I live a little bit of a paycheck to paycheck at the moment.
Seems like everything's more expensive than it was 4 or 5 years ago. So, it could be a lot better for sure.
A person's take-home pay is impacted by things like deductions and tax cuts, which can help some people keep more of their money for themselves. According to the Tax Policy Center, the top 10% of earners benefited the most from Trump's 2017 tax cuts. If he returns to the White House, he's planning to expand tax cuts and impose a 10 to 20% tariff on imports, likely increasing prices and hurting pockets even more. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris doesn't want to touch taxes for those making $400,000 a year or less and proposes an opportunity economy, which would include $6,000 to families with newborns in their first year of life.
It's a big deal. I mean, particularly for a low, moderate income person, obviously they have lots of expenses when they have a first kid, and, you have $6,000. That's going to help you a lot.
As Election Day nears, how much money Americans make and how far it can take them will surely be on the minds of many on November 5th. I'm Juan Benn Jr. in Washington, D.C., reporting for HU NewsVision. Ask anyone who's been doing something for nearly 40 years why they do what they do. Chances are they'll say it's because they love it. That's not much different from Montu, who goes by the one-name moniker and has been selling books on the 2400 block of Georgia Avenue for almost 4 decades.
It's more of a hobby, and I call it my community service, because no one else is going to be responsible for our information but us. We got to know our history, so it won't be a mystery.
The 68-year-old independent bookseller from New Jersey got his start after his older brother introduced him to books from what he described as the awareness movement of the 1960s and 70s. When he first arrived in Washington, D.C., drivers could park along both sides of Georgia Avenue. He set up shop just outside of Jamaican restaurant and a grill and recalls there being a healthy appetite for books by and about Black people. Some of his most popular titles at the time included The ISIS Papers by Frances Cress Welsing and The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. Both still hold up today alongside some of his other bestsellers, 48 Laws of Power and Anything by Bell Hooks or Toni Morrison. But while some things have stayed the same, Montu says much has changed since he first started selling books.
As time goes by, it seems like the attitudes have changed a lot.
He says interest fades with the seasons. He gets a lot of business in February during Black History Month. Still, Montu spends his weekends selling books at a Baltimore flea market and continues to make the nearly hour-long drive to Howard's campus 3 to 4 days a week. He stores his books, fold-up table, and tablecloth in the trunk of his car, only packing his lunch and sometimes extra sandwiches for people in need who walk by throughout the day. Montu's a retired bus driver and says he's always liked working with others and having conversations.
It really surprises me sometimes, especially when a younger person asks me something on philosophy or something that happened back in the 60s. I'm impressed with that, very impressed.
For him, selling books isn't about the money. He says the business pretty much pays for itself. It's about spreading knowledge and keeping people informed. And that includes the really young, a demographic he hopes to expand to soon with new books for kids and young adults. I'm Juan Benn Jr. in Washington, D.C., reporting for HU NewsVision. Washington, D.C. voters were up early to cast their votes. The polls opened in the district at 7 a.m. this morning, with some coming in before a shift at work and others with their kids in tow. Voters across the country will decide who will be the next president of the United States.
A woman, like, this is a vote for a woman and a vote that feels like it has real implications for what the future of our country and my life in particular could look like.
I think it's part of your civic duty, like one of the things that makes this country great.
November 5th is finally here, and voters casting their ballots in the early morning see it as an opportunity to employ their civic duty and make their voices heard.
I want to have a say in the country that I have to live in, that my friends have to live in, that my family has to live in, all the people that I love about. So, it's one of the only things that I feel like we get to have a say in, so might as well exercise it, and it's relatively easy.
D.C. voters will also decide on 6 seats on the D.C. Council, including 2 at large, several advisory neighborhood commissioners, the shadow U.S. Senator and Representative, and Initiative 83, a ballot measure that will give independents in D.C. a vote in the primaries. A vote that for some holds a lot of weight.
I've got grandparents, my mom, my grandparents, their parents, who struggled for this vote. And whether I agree with any of the candidates, it's important for me to, again, lean or help nudge the one that's going to be more focused on the things that I need for me, I need for my family.
I'm Juan Benn Jr. in Washington, D.C., reporting for Howard University NewsVision.